So budget workshop, the October 24th one, we have two budget workshops left, two November workshops, and then hopefully we'll approve it at the December meeting. And that's what works out the best for advertising purposes, so. Okay, I'm gonna go over fund balances again. Then I'm gonna talk about the C20 sewer separation project. That's probably the biggest thing, the biggest change from last time. I mentioned it last time, but we didn't have time to really assess how those funds were going to affect us, or how that project was gonna affect us, and how we could move things to make it work. Because if you remember at the last meeting, we were actually $400,000 under on our bond fund budget. And so now we're working on, I made a bunch of adjustments and I'll talk through all of that. I'm also going to talk about where the source of those funds are coming from and the results. I'm going to talk about the green infrastructure projects of C20 and the budget for that. We're also going to have a presentation by Gateway on both of those projects, on C20 source separation in the regular meeting and on the green infrastructure projects. And I'll talk about that. Well, we also had a conversation with Chief Crown, the volunteer fire department chief, about them, and he had some minor concerns, but they're concerns that we could address fairly easily, but we'll discuss that later as well. For fund budgets, I'll talk about that. And the budget, the bond tracking sheet, and then the overall budget planning document as well. So starting with the current accounts, these are updated figures now. Reserve goal is in the general fund reserve is not met, but collectively from the two funds it is. And we'll talk about that later, how we're going to work on getting the general fund reserve back up. The road fund we've discussed several times has a significant amount of funding in it. And that's what we're going to use to help offset the project costs. Sewer fund is well funded, though by the end of the year, with a bunch of with some of the transfers and whatnot, we're going to be right around the sewer fund reserve. So we're going to want to keep an eye on that. And the rest we'll discuss in a moment. So those are the accounts, but here's the big one. Here's the big project that's really affecting our budget significantly. And that's the C20 sewer separation project. This is the sewer project that is going to be installed on Steuben. And it'll run up Duncan Avenue and Linden Avenue, connecting with a sanitary sewer line. And that overall budget, so the first line there is the design cost. The actual design cost has actually been almost entirely paid for at this point in this year's budget. And that was about $210,000. It actually is about currently at 196, but we have an authorization for 14,000 more, so it'll come out to be around $210,000. So that money has already been spent. And that
was budgeted for this year.
And that was budgeted for this year.
Okay.
Yep. The estimated cost of inspections. This is the engineering cost that happened when the project is actually going on. We're going to budget it for 170,000, which is what Gateway suggested. However, this is where we can have Larry step in and do several of these. He's not going to be able to cut out $170,000 worth, but he could probably cut out $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 worth. And so we're talking about how that will work moving forward. But for now, we're budgeting 170,000.
When you say we're talking with Gateway, you kind of Larry, all kind of.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Exactly. Figuring out where the
What that
budgets
would look
are.
like. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll have to, and they're perfectly, they're fine with that. And possibly what we'll do is have him work 2 days a week in the field, doing this work, and then 3 days on his regular job. And then but we're navigating that and figuring that out.
Here's when it says inspection, what is that true? I mean,
So they literally stand out there with the construction workers every day to make sure that the depth of the concrete is correct, that to make sure that the asphalt is laid properly, to make sure, and they check it. And the heat, the heat of concrete, of asphalt coming out of the box, all that stuff is checked on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yep, and that's what engineers do when they're out on that's what they do when they're inspecting out in the field.
Does he hold certain certifications that allow him to stamp that as a?
Yeah, well, he doesn't, he's not a stamp, he doesn't, you don't need to be for that.
Okay.
Yeah. But he has the qualifications and he's done it. He actually did it to some degree for our paving project. So he did quite a few days on our paving project, saving us that money. out of the paving.
Okay,
Then the cost of eligible construction, so we are pulling some money out of that. We've met with Alcoasand. Alcoasand had, we had been replacing some things that we didn't necessarily have to. One of the big things was the paving on the paving on Duncan and Linden. And we looked into that and they're actually already in pretty good shape. So we're just gonna do trench repairs on those as opposed to repaving. It makes no sense to repave an entire road when it's in good shape. So that got us down to 2.4 million for the eligible cost of the construction costs. So that helped us lower that. And then we're also able to eliminate additional paving, but we still have to pave that $157,000 right there. That is PennDOT for PennDOT paving. So for Steuben, we have to do what PennDOT requires because it's not our road, it's their road. So we do have that $157,000 for that. And that will come out of that. The reason I have it in a different color, that's gonna come out of the road fund, the road fund. And that is in the road fund and locked in. I don't have that on the decisions portion. So that's, you can't change that when we change decisions because it's gonna be required. And then ultimately, so it gives us a total estimated project cost of 2.7 million. So we were able to cut out like 750,000 out of the total project cost. And now bringing the actual Alcoasand grant is 1.66 million. And the borough responsibility then is about slightly over $1 million at $1,091,000. Whoops, the wrong way. You can't see it on this slide because of this thing. But there's a number there below. That is what we actually will still owe because we've already spent this 210,000. So this is what will be left in the budget.
so that's what we need to build in for 2025.
Exactly.
Can you just clarify a difference between eligible and ineligible?
Yes, so eligible by Alcoasand's Grow Grant standards. So ineligible costs that are eligible to get a percentage. So the way Alcoasand does their funding is on percentages. And the percentage is this very complex formula that they have. They really won't even let us look at, but we get to see certain parts of it. And it's because they're taking in their entire system to analyze it. And we're just analyzing our portion of the system. And it comes down to basically the highest percentage you can get is 85%. And typically that is a very simple source separation project where you're basically taking a lot of water out and in an area where they have had no other projects or no other reductions. We're working on a project. This is an area that has had reductions in other ways. And so it's not quite as efficient, but it's still what we have to do. It's what we are required to do. So we only got a 59% return on this grant, where in the past we had gotten 70 and 75%. And part of that is due to the fact that they removed, at every cycle, they have removed eligible costs. So in the first cycle, we were able to use curbs and build roadways. And in the next cycle, they didn't do that. And that was Broadhead. And then Broadhead, but they still allowed us to mill and pave roads and do other things. They cut that out too. So this one it's just a much more trimmed down project. Thankfully, we wouldn't have gotten a lot out of this one anyway. We got more out of the ones we started with, so that's okay, but that's the ineligible versus eligible is whether it can be covered by a Grow Grant or not.
Okay,
And they don't cover any milling and paving,
okay,
so that's why that's ineligible.
okay.
But that is a change, because they're covering it for Broadhead. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions before I do the next slide? Then I'll talk about how we move stuff around to make this work. Okay. So I talked about the road fund having a surplus of approximately 1.2 million after the reserve is met and after this year's funding comes through. So I'm budgeting the C20 road work from the road fund And then I'm also recommending the surplus funds be added to the general fund reserve for future projects. Or to cover bond shortfall, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And so to do that, I'm recommending that we eliminate the road fund tax for a year and increase the general fund reserve. So we're basically moving the money that we would have been putting in the road fund, and we're gonna pull it out of the road fund reserve, and we're pull it out instead of adding money, we're just gonna use the money that's in the road fund now. And work that down, so.
Yeah, so again, on that word eliminate, it's more just again, like we said last time, like reallocating it. We're not removing, just putting it still there. It's just being literally on a different road.
Yep, we're just reallocating, yep, exactly, where it's going, so. The general fund is currently at 822. By the end of the year, I estimate it'll be about 600,000. So that's what the year in total will be for that. General fund reserve, end of the year, this year, let me move this, will be around what it is now, because we're not pulling anything. Actually, it'll grow a little bit because of interest, but we're not taking anything out of it. So that shouldn't change much. Road fund, I did this wrong, I know, oh no, that's correct. So at the end of this year, I expect the road fund to be at about 1.5 million. And at the end of this year, sewer fund will be at about 387,000 after the transfers and the rest of the funding is out, and the sewer fund reserve will be at about 876,000. Next year, general fund will be about the same, assuming that we end the year with a good budget. General fund reserve, I'm proposing adding 320,000 into the general fund reserve. Now, remember, we took 600,000 out of the road fund, and I'll talk about where some of that other money has gone and what I'm recommending. And then the road fund, after a year of not contributing to it, will be down to 839, and then also budgeting out of it will be down to 839,000. At that point, we can decide at the end of 2025 if we want to restart the road fund or do we want to lower it? Maybe right now we're doing 8.59 mils overall and 8.59 overall, with 2.42 going to the road and 6.17 going to the general fund. I'm gonna probably propose that we change that a little bit so that we can start adding more to the general reserve fund. Because we definitely want to have not only just a better cushion, but we also want to have the ability to have a fund for grant funds and whatnot, because we're going to be at the point where we don't have any backup funds because the bond fund will be depleted. So we'll want to have not just a cash reserve, but a capital reserve. So there's that. So then we'll end up, you'll see about $300,000 less than what we will end this year with, and I'll show you why in a minute. Actually, is this the best? Yeah, let me talk about this first, and then it was hard to figure out what to talk about in what order because there's so much going on. This is and I'll show you on the bond sheet, but this is the green infrastructure project for C20. I've lowered the estimate for this since we got such a low response for the separation project, and separation projects typically do better on Alcosan's assessment than green infrastructure does. So I've lowered the amount that we expect to get back from this.
We don't know yet. Right,
We don't know.
they
That's
sent
correct.
this one back for additional review, so we don't know yet what they are going to have.
That's correct. So we won't get this back till December, so we have to budget something now. So I'm gonna budget on the conservative side so that we have room. And then I'm gonna actually pull up the bond sheet so you can see. And this is updated on the website as of today, today, so you can also just go look at it. But we're gonna look at the proposed projects. And so in the proposed projects, this is the C20 separation work. And this will actually move to committed, hopefully we'll move to committed after tonight, because we would like to get for the separation work approval to move forward with the bid, with putting it out to bid. Because we're ready to go and we have several projects happening next year, it'd be good to get this one moving. But you can see we're at the pending the ground offset that we talked about. The proposed road cost is lower than what I said because I don't have that 210,000 in that we already spent. Just because of the way this sheet works versus the other sheet works, but I won't get into that. I think what is most important is this sheet. Now, last week when I said this, we were at about a $400,000 deficit. Now, with all the changes I put in this, we're at about a $314,000 surplus in this bond fund, which is not very much considering we have $9 million in projects happening next year. And so we have to watch this very closely, and I don't want to, we should not use this for anything else. So unless it's budgeted. So I just want to show everybody that. And now I'm going to move back to the actual budget document. To show you a few of the places and things that have changed. And so you see now, this was budgeted last year for 1.6 million. Now we're budgeting it for 2.3 million. Pretty significant increase. That's the road fund money. So real estate tax is now all of it. The 8.59 mils will go into the general fund for 1 year. And because of that, we will also be transferring money from. Yeah, so this is the money that will go then to the capital reserve fund. But I did, so on the decisions tree, I want to show you something I did, and this is just a suggestion of mine, this is your choice. But I actually am suggesting that we attempt to fix all of the O&M projects next year. These are projects that can be at risk to get worse over time, but not necessarily. We had $214,000 in new repairs added this year. So 600,000 will get us caught. If we did 600,000 next year, it'll get us caught up, and then we're only paying what CCTV captured the prior year, and so then we're up to date. And that will be $400,000 less next year than this year, assuming that you don't get some crazy repairs. Now, that's always possible. And that's also why I would like to start putting money back into the SOAR fund to have additional money back there in case there is any risk there. But that's where the additional, there's probably 200 to 300,000 additional here that I've added into the SOAR fund to try to accomplish that. But I just wanted to let everybody know. So if there's questions or concerns about that. Trying to think where to go from here. So I've talked about this. The bond tracking sheet is completely updated as well. So that has all the current all the bills up to today in it. So additional stuff, I talked about having less, this was from a slide from a couple weeks ago, but I updated a little bit of it. I talked about having less discretionary spending because of some of these things that have happened. We're still waiting on the official estimate for the plans for the garage floor. We're anticipating, I haven't budgeted for 50. So not sure where that will go yet. And then this is an updated numbers for the O&M. We were able to, this did get lowered a little bit. It was at, I think, 675 before. But or 650. And so this is down to 600,000 total. And as I mentioned, 186. I did get this wrong. I said 214. It's 186,000 from this year, and only 414 in old repairs. I don't. So just to summarize it. So again, I didn't say this at the beginning, but you know, John likes me to say this every time, is it is a balanced budget. There is no tax increase. And then moving the road fund to the general fund for 1 year and approximately adjusting that number in the future, adding $320,000 to the general fund reserve and completing all the O&M repair projects. And we don't have to do that, but that's what I'm.
And the 320 is the road tax, right?
This is it is coming from the road tax, but yeah. So any questions?
On those, The O and M repairs, which I know you told me what that stands for, but I forget.
No, operations and maintenance.
I knew it.
Yeah, that's right.
Do we know if those will be on the same streets as some of the work? So it's like
That's a good
a
question.
lot of like,
We
a
have
lot
not done
of
that.
birds
I
and
have
one
not done
stone.
that. That's a great question. Yeah,
You know, maybe it's like a little BOGO.
yep.
We're already on the street.
I will,
Manhole to manhole.
yeah. All right. Good thought. Yep.
With all, not to be a Debbie Downer, with so much, I mean, all these big projects that are important and I feel like they have to get done. Is there a thought of some of the more fun things being removed?
I did keep some of them in.
I mean, I saw
so-
some fun, like, look, I know that the community center needs a floor,
I tried-
it needs a little facelift, but like, if push come to shove, I think,
Wants and needs.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to keep in the things that were more beneficial to the community as a whole, or things that like the community center
Yeah.
and stuff like, that's the things that people use, like the landscaping, the borough wayfinding. This is currently in a grant application, so I sent it
Okay.
for those. Elevator, we've been talking about, but we've said no. Awning, I have yes, but we can switch that out. Admin, bathroom, because the only people who really benefit this are the administration, so I said no to that.
Oh,
The paving budget, we could talk about, and then the pool, I'm still waiting on this warranty information, but these items we're gonna apply for a DCNR grant, but that won't get budgeted until 2020.
Okay. Okay.
Some of those are also kind of small amounts and, you know, small stuff adds up, but.
Yeah.
But we've had a number of years. That predate, you know, pretty much all of us, but. The South Kazan stuff has just been like year upon year upon year of big budget. Big expense projects that need to happen. What makes me nervous is, I mean, I understand the idea of maybe trying to handle all the O and M next year, but that stuff does keep coming around. So what is do we really think that if we finish that $600,000 worth of O and M next year, that it means we won't find more things that are?
Oh, no, we do it we do we CCTV a tenth of the borough every single year. And then, so at the end of this year, we're gonna have new repairs, certainly. My thing is, let's get to zero. And then so the new repairs for next year are $186,000. Let's get to where that's it. You know, or, you know, and you're gonna have some years, it might be 300,000, but then you might get a year that's 115,000. But then you're just doing the repairs from the previous year, as opposed to this, which is 186 from the previous year, and then 414 from prior years.
The 414, ideally, we wouldn't be. Again, having that, again, I mean, you can't say
Yeah.
that,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that's the.
That's the idea. The idea is that you're only dealing with the repairs from the prior year. So hopefully there's, you know, the goal is that, you know, everything's gonna get CCTV'd every 10 years, so that hasn't been CCTV'd in 10 years, so it's essentially what has happened in 10 years. From the previous time it was CCTV.
Was there a middle ground to get the 400 some old repairs and not worry about the new ones this year and split the difference?
Yeah, we could definitely do that. There's definitely room to, and that's why I put it there as from a fiscally, you know, the most fiscally conservative, but.
Well, I mean, on the flip side too, sometimes when we put things off, including some of those items like the pool liner or some of the repairs here in this building. The longer you put them off, more expensive they become.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, and who knows what that.
that's partly why we have been paying so much for, the past few years for sewer.
Do we know when the police garage floor estimate's gonna come in?
We were hoping to have it by now, but he got paid late. Just because of the way a bill cycle happened, so he didn't wanna do the other work until we haven't had a relationship with him, so I think. He was just waiting for that, so we should get it by the next meeting.
When you say do the work, you mean put in the proposal? What is do?
Yeah,
the
do the
work?
work, yeah, make the proposal, like,
Ah.
do the work.
He just looked at it, but he hasn't done the proposal.
No, he did an assessment, but doing a proposal, you have to look up all the unit costs for everything that you're gonna do, you have to.
Yeah, you have to put the whole thing
Figure
together.
out what it'll cost for like mobilization and all that like little like nuance stuff. That's what he's.
Okay,
drawing up.
Uh-huh.
Wants to make sure we're good for it before he puts wood.
He's like, do they have it in the budget?
Yeah, yep.
He's like 50,000 and he had like 32, he's like. You reset. Can we talk the bond fund?
What?
I say that like I have a clear question. I guess I just love walk. So you get, the bond was, we received this to do these big ticket items. We knew we had big projects coming, so that's why we did this. So
Yep.
that's what this money is for.
Yep.
Are
This
these
money
big
was
projects?
First and foremost for all of the Alcoasand sewer separation stuff.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. So that,
And so to give you an idea, actual grant, well, that's actual grant received, there is the actual grant. Right. So we've received 3 million to date, but we've received more than that. We still have money coming in from this. 3.5, I think there's another. 400, no, 700,000 coming from this.
Is that Alcoasand reimbursement?
What's that?
You mean Alcoasand reimbursement?
Yeah. Yeah, we have two
They
final.
still owe us.
Yeah, they still own us because we had to do audits. It's been, we had to go back and forth quite a bit. We had to do we had to do audits on Woodlawn, on the Woodlawn separation and on the Crafton Boulevard separation. And we started that in March and we're just now finalizing that because we went back and forth with Alcoasand so many times. Oh, so we still have $8 million in grant funding come out from the committed projects. And oh wait, this is not the right one. Oh, I don't have the pending ones correctly on this, so we're supposed to get to 4.3 million on this. And we've already gotten 8, so we've received 12+ million in grants. So these, in total, these projects will end up being, well, and that doesn't count for what we received for this, so. So we have 3.2 pending on this, plus the 8 is 11, and then plus what I just mentioned, so. On this one, which is 4.5, so we're at like 16 million in received grants. Which means our project total will be somewhere around 23 million at this point. Pretty good, that's a pretty good turnaround for borrowed money.
and what was the amount of the bond originally?
9 million.
9 million, okay.
And
Wow.
that is right here. And we've received
Gotcha.
280,000 in interest since we use it.
Station Street.
All right, any other questions before?
No, I can have some.
So what decision, go ahead.
Now I was gonna ask you a question about just.
Yeah.
Why are studies so expensive?
It's like you're.
Yeah, so I mean, why, I mean, I don't know if it is, I just looked at the bid versus that's the construction cost, but I don't even know what the study would
Kind
be.
of a broad question, so I'm not really sure exactly how to reply. It depends on the study, but I mean.
I mean, but like, I guess
They
what goes
include
into,
a lot of like data analysis.
Okay.
Surveying that sometimes is involved. It can be data intensive and time intensive, and a lot of times they also include a lot of like meeting engagement, stakeholder engagement. It's just time and hours.
okay,
Basically, they're often used to justify the next step of are you gonna get state or federal funding? And so they make you show a fair amount of work
Right.
to justify upfront that you have a legitimate use for it. But yeah, they're expensive.
Okay. Because I feel like a lot of the stuff we've talked about, it's like, you know, we do the studies first, and I just,
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, time, all the work people have to put into them, so, okay.
Well, and it's like, no, I mean, again, this is a super broad question, because it really depends on what it is, but. We generally aren't gonna get funding to go build something if we haven't done all the background effort to show this is. Feasible, we understand why it's needed, we've done all of our homework and all our research, we've gotten all our ducks in a row, and now we're gonna say. Can you give us the money?
Okay.
We're gonna pursue a grant to go build it.
That makes sense. Okay. Like,
So going back, I think someone was starting to get to the question of decisions, so, that's really this page, and, you guys. Your decision, what of these things I just put down things that I thought made sense, but what's
Can
that?
we check Aaron's audio, her audio is not working anymore, and just check that the Zoom connection's still working?
Yeah,
She didn't get automatically muted or anything. So it could be her audio, but if we could check,
yeah,
that's not our audio.
Did she get dropped off the call? I thought she did. That's what that was that we heard.
she said must be my connection, I got kicked out.
okay. Oh, it's like, oh geez, after all the work I did on this. There you go. Okay. Okay. Good, I was pretty sure it was working right, but
It's the worst.
Aaron, are you able to hear now? Just wanna make sure.
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so these are ultimately the decisions. This is on the website, so you can go just download it off the website. And play around with it. It's adjustable on the website. You can just go in and change the decisions as you see fit. But are there the one I did want to ask, we are budgeting that 25,000 for we have right now for the dog park. But we don't have a place for that yet. I don't know.
Do we have a grant for that?
No,
That's hopeful. We have,
no, that's not a grant at all. That's just us wanting to build
because it says DCR.
I don't know why
grants,
that's-
the
I didn't
other
mean-
estimate.
I didn't need that. That's in the wrong
I
place.
didn't think we had a grant. for
No,
that.
we don't. I don't know why that's in there. I might have accidentally copied that from another cell. I don't know why that was there. Yeah, there's no, I was not looking into DCNR getting the grant. But, I don't know if we have a location selected or if that's something that can be done soon too, but. It's the thought.
So with something like that, the location. Is that planning? Is that us? Who's?
Yes,
All?
it's who, yeah, both. I mean, if planning has been very interested in this. But we haven't gotten to a place where the decision hadn't been made, and ultimately, they're a recommending body. So they could recommend something to the council, but council is the one that ultimately has to make the decision.
The other thing is that, I mean, we can talk about it, but that idea has just been floated, as an idea.
Yeah.
But there's not a location for it, and there's no. When it initially came up as an idea, beyond the location, some of the questions around it also were. Maintenance and security and their, which was all kind of news to me, because I didn't really think of it that way, but. John had done some more research, and there's more that we have to figure out, and I don't think any of that effort has been done.
Yeah, no.
So I didn't think we were ready to just pull the trigger on that.
Okay.
But it certainly is, it's an idea that's been out there for a while, and there's a lot of interest in having one.
Well, maybe the 2025 could be the year of putting the work into figuring out those things, like where it should go, how much is in the insurance? Are we gonna have like little water fountains, so does water need to run there, like all of those type of.
Carnegie just did a small dog and a large dog park. and they might be good to talk to about what
Yeah,
their
I know
experience
Steve
was, what their costs were, what their process was. I just took the dog to it the other day and it was
I know there was
It
some
was nice.
conversation
It was pretty
about
nice.
the fact that we could build it ourselves, and that's not something that needs like study or engineering or anything.
Yeah,
But that depends on what kind of dog park we want. If we
Yeah.
wanted to do something fancier, then it need more effort versus just an enclosed space. It's more something that Public Works could take on, but we have to figure out the operation and maintenance side of it.
There's some people love their pets. We even could do could donate a doggy slide or something, put your name on it.
all right.
Well,
So what?
Yeah.
Do we have decisions to make on this or, because the finance committee has been looking over all of this too. Are there like specific decisions that you want us to focus on? Is this kind of the recommendation based on what seems to,
this is
Yes.
based on no one but my.
okay, so
But
this is not like the recommendation of the finance committee?
No, because except for Mike, the other members of I guess Vince, you're there, but you haven't been at the last one, so the finance committee. We don't have recommendations, but we do have to we did look at the dates for advertising this. It does seem like it makes the most sense just to advertise it for the December meeting from an ease of process standpoint for us. So we don't have to make the final decision until the next meeting or the meeting after that. So you guys can take this and review it and
But as they're in there now, it's balanced.
it's
As
balanced.
it is now.
As it is right now, it's balanced, but you can move any, if you move, one second. The only thing I will caution that if you change anything in the sewer fund or in the road fund, because they're in different funds, it won't immediately change the balance. I have to go in and adjust the transfers. But everything else will adjust properly.
And you said anything with a yes is pulled into the budget.
Correct,
Gotcha. Okay.
correct.
But there's a few, so pool liner issues, for example, waiting on warranty information. If it's covered by warranty, does that 20,000 go away?
Exactly.
So there's that, there's the garage, the police garage floor. There's a lot of things that are still. We don't know enough yet to be able to make a decision on that.
Well, I would
Because
say,
$50,000
yeah,
swing on even just the garage floor for the police is a lot of money.
yeah, well, I will say this.
Not do that, right? I
Well,
mean,
We
that,
can also choose not to do that.
but can we? Because it
I
seemed like
mean,
that was getting
well,
pretty bad.
I am of the mind that I would not want, well, here's the thing, you cannot do it. And then they just can't use that garage.
Yeah,
And the only time that's really an issue is, well, first, I shouldn't say it's the only time. They use that garage all the time because it's the garage that's the closest access to them getting in. So that's a pretty big change culturally, in my opinion, for them. And also, what does it say to them that we're not gonna fix that? And you have a new chief coming on.
that seemed like kind of a priority.
Yeah, that's my opinion, yeah, I think
It's
so.
not gonna get any better. It
Yeah.
has to be done.
I have another quick one. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting your thought, Jim. For the community room,
Mhm.
have we, those fees, like the floor and the tables and chairs, are those, estimates? I mean,
Yes,
that's
now
just you guessing,
No,
like,
now I've gotten, these are more formal estimates
Okay.
now. This is the actual cost of particular chair that we liked. And then these are basic, I did a quick assessment of what a normal,
Mhm.
like what, based on square footage, what it would
Mhm.
cost, so that's.
So go ahead, you first.
now I was gonna say, and the thought with investing, I can't do quick math, 12, 23, 20, I'll say 27 for giggles. In that space, one, it needs it, it's old, it's dated, people
Yep.
use it, but then maybe people would rent it out more, and could we increase our rental fee a
I would
smidge?
suggest we do,
Okay,
yep.
How much do we take in for the community room? every
yeah.
year?
Great
Pretty
question,
minor.
and just happy to be very close.
Big bucks on it.
What's that?
So it's gonna be pretty minor. We're not.
It's not a ton of money, but it's not insignificant.
Okay, and
Um,
do we, I don't wanna say advertise using that space, I mean, do we?
I mean,
know
we
have
don't-
The one theater group maybe wanted to use it and,
Yeah, they never did, so we
Okay.
never got that weekly rate. but we can add that weekly rate into this year's fee schedule, and I would suggest we do that. The rental fee this year, we got 72.50 in for it. So not a ton, but
More than what I thought it was gonna be.
And with improvements, what percentage do you think we could raise it? 10%?
10 or 15, I would say, I would anticipate maybe getting $10,000 a year for it. If we improved it, and maybe more if we advertised it. I'd also like to get the other room fixed up too, but we haven't gotten it.
And with us having, our website overhaul and Facebook page, I do wonder, I mean, I'm sure people who have been around a long time, oh, they know it's there, but I'm thinking like. I know people could do showers or whatever, but people who want to lead like their own like weekly meetings or I'm making up like a book club. I know it's a fee, but
Yeah, well, and one thing, just a note too, one thing we don't do now, which we could change, right now, if you rent it for Saturday, we don't rent Sunday. Because it has to be cleaned, but the public works guys come in on Saturday and Sunday morning to clean the place. Not gonna hurt anything, we're good. We're good. But so they've already come in, if it would give them more work. If they were interested in doing it, but we could do it, we could rent it both days, that would help increase the amount that we get for it. And with the improved, if we improve what it looks like and then market it better, you could change that into 30,000 a year,
let's-
possibly.
well,
I feel like we're talking about, can we get a few extra $1,000, maybe 10, maybe 5, maybe $10,000 here.
Yeah.
With something, we're looking at a lot
Yeah.
in the sewer stuff. Is there more that we can cut out of the C20? Is all of that,
Oh, this is, it's,
because we have to meet the mandate, we have to
Yeah.
get our reductions down, but,
from a budgeting standpoint, we have cut out what I'm willing to cut out.
because that's a
From a,
lot of money.
yeah, but there are still contingencies built in there. But I don't wanna remove all of them. I mean, I removed the things that we're not actually gonna do. The other things are built in for unpredicted. And I don't wanna cut that,
Yeah.
cutting that out is just too risky.
No, I wouldn't wanna cut it out either, and the reality is we keep having things that are unpredicted, so I don't feel comfortable saying that we're likely to get that back either. But it is, we didn't get as much as we were expecting from Alcoasand, and that is just a lot to have to pay on top of everything that we've been paying. I would really like to be done with those. So, and this isn't a question we can answer here today, but is it one we can broach? Do we know of or anticipate that there might be other funding sources that we could go after? Grant funds, we're gonna have to pay some of that, so whatever portion we do pay would be our match for it. Yeah, I mean, best case scenario, we actually do find something that covers the whole thing, but any match could be offset by what we're already getting from Alcoasand. I mean,
Yeah,
even if we got some of it, we had multiple different sources for Broadhead.
Yep.
And this is gonna move a little bit faster.
Yep.
Because we've already been working on it and it needs to move forward next year, but, what are your thoughts on what might be out there? Is that like,
but
is there anything we think could go?
I don't. And the only reason, I mean, we have, well, one of the problems is we have a very strict deadline. We have to have this project done by the end of 2025 or close to it. The other thing is, I was actually hoping to go out to bid with this one tonight. And that will put us out, we could still, the trick is timeline. There's nothing out there right now that is open this minute. I can double check that, but I don't think there is. And so it usually takes like 6 months to a year to get awarded anything anyway. So we wouldn't even be getting awarded until this project is supposed to be done. I mean, yeah, I wish that I had better news. What's that?
That C20 is the number on there that I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend that much on it.
We're able to cut, we'll be cutting off some of it because of Larry's work but we've already trimmed off most of the fat. As far as I see it.
again, Debbie, if something would go sideways and I'm on that C20 and they're like, oh man, it's gonna be an extra $300,000. I know you said you have reserves. Where?
So first, that reserve will eliminate the bond fund. We'll spend everything out of the bond fund.
Okay,
And then we'll start hitting the capital reserves. If capital reserves get probably under a number of maybe 500,000 or something in that ballpark, then we'll see if we can get a bridge loan. And so
okay,
you can get bridge loans.
okay,
And that will help because, for example, the audit we had to do at the end of, the end of the end of Crafton Boulevard and whatnot. So you don't even see the last 10% of the money until it could be a year later. But shortfall.
okay. But there are things out there, like you said, this bond, not the
Bridge loan.
bridge loan. I mean, there are things out there to help communities, or if you're like, I don't want to pull any more out of my reserve, might as well just go this route. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
With the bond fund, the 300,000, you had mentioned before when it was closer to 6. That was gonna be there, that we want that amount in there to cover interest. Is that right? Or
No, to cover potential payment at the 5-year mark, we have to pay the difference between what we were allowed to get in interest and what we actually got in interest. And right now, we're almost dead even. And so the interest we're getting over the next year is gonna put us over, but it's probably gonna be like $20,000 or $30,000. So it's not gonna be something that's gonna break the bank. It's just gonna be something that we have to.
when is the 5-year mark? Is that?
March of 26, I think.
So that'll have to be
yeah.
in next year,
Yeah.
26.
It will be in the 26 budget. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it is, March 26, I'm sure of that.
Maybe we won't need any snow removal.
What's that?
So maybe we just won't need any snow removal. Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
just seems like 2025 is going to be an expensive year for all of these big projects, and I think we know that. And let's just hope no big obstacles come our way in 2026, like you said, can almost be like a year of like stability and like kind of, yeah, really putting money back in your bank, in your accounts.
That's a goal.
It seems very adult of us, very grown. Maybe it's adulting, man.
It's exhausting.
All right.
Talking about today.
Well, I'm gonna stop, if we're good for now, I'll stop sharing, we'll start taking an 8-minute break before that meeting starts.